AI, like you said, is not the pixie duck and dust, and it's not the WD-40 for every one of our ailments, or in the Wild West, the guy who came on the wagon and had an elixir that could solve every malaise that somebody had. At the end of the day, you can utilize AI to synthesize, to summarize, to compile, but the human needs to make the final decision. The human needs to make the go, no go. You can go up to Everest, be at base camp. You can go ahead and compile your altitude, the weather, the wind, moisture, the surface, radar, LIDAR, infrared, all the aspects of what it is to go up the mountain. But then somebody has to actually make the choice. You're not going to ask ChatGPT, should we go to the summit today? Right? Connect that idea with what I said and kind of the hodgepodge of what I delivered with, look, event planners are saturated. You speak a lot. They're overloaded with, the chief cook and the bottle washer and everything in between. Oh, now, Greg, great. Now I need to learn how to write a prompt and then deploy it and be more effective. Another thing to do. So a lot there. Go.
Okay. Wow. So that was a lot. So let me build on, I think, one of the key themes that you hit on there, which is the role of humanity versus technology. And I mean, there's a sort of a macro conversation to be had about that, in terms of all of human society. But without boiling the entire ocean, I think it's almost a mindset as much as it is anything else, right? That the way I would put it is AI is a great assistant, but it's going to be a terrible boss, right? So, at the end of the day, there's a lot of conversation in AI circles. This may or may not be a phrase that, the general public uses or thinks about or has heard, but we talk a lot about having a human in the loop, which essentially means these systems are not fully autonomous, even though they are becoming more autonomous by the day. But even then, they're not fully autonomous, and everything requires a certain amount of human checks and human balances.
Is autonomous, is that what people sometimes I've heard being called an agent?
Agents, yeah. So, typically the distinction is when you talk about an AI assistant, it typically means something that is reactive to your prompt, to your inquiry, your question, your request, or whatever. And it doesn't act on your behalf, but it provides you with information. An agent is a system that's capable of performing entire tasks autonomously. So, easy example for anybody that's not familiar with and hasn't been following that conversation is if I'm going to a conference, I might ask ChatGPT, what's the best hotel among these three that are, that have room blocks, let's say. And ChatGPT will scour its training data and give me an answer and say, it's the Hilton, the Marriott, and the Holiday Inn. You want to stay at the Hilton. It's, got higher reviews. It's closer to the venue, whatever the criteria are. But an agent, I would then perhaps make a subsequent request and say, fantastic, book me a room at the Hilton for this night and this night. I want a high floor far from the elevator.
And they'll know your rewards number and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And it will complete that task for me. We're not quite there yet. The technology doesn't quite work as promised, but it's coming quickly. And all of the big companies from OpenAI to Microsoft to Anthropic with Claude have announced this kind of technology, at least in sort of alpha, beta kind of mode. But nonetheless, that aside, when I think about human in the loop, I'm thinking human in charge. To your point, you don't want to rely solely on these systems for decision making, but you absolutely do want to rely on these systems for informing the decisions you make. And that's actually a big challenge for a lot of organizations because it means data-based decision making. And a lot of organizations have a lot of data challenges. And my consultancy, Cognitive Path, works with a lot of associations. And we see very consistently that they might have, let's say, a CRM system like a Salesforce or something, doesn't speak with their association management software, which doesn't speak to their community platform, which doesn't speak to their event management software, which doesn't speak to the lodging platform, right? But you need data from all of those systems to come together to do things like use this to make database decision making, right? So, certainly a lot of organizations need to think about how they clean those data problems. But once you have your hands on that data and you have access to a powerful tool like artificial intelligence to make it easy to interact with that data, to ask questions of that data, to drill into the data, to identify patterns that you might have missed, because none of us can look at all of these, what might be millions and millions of data points collected, let's say, over the course of years, if you've been collecting that data. Now you've got this incredible asset that you can use to augment your human decision making. But it is always absolutely critical to keep control of your agency, your autonomy, your
Yeah.
authority, and ultimately your accountability for running a great event.